No, well, because obviously, like we said, is if we've got these three key areas that we're trying to focus on with goal setting, or to make them determined to get their goal. So with, like the relatedness, the competence, and having autonomy in their goal.
Mm-hmm.
But if they come in with a goal that's very external, so I want to lose 10 kgs, and it's there's not a lot in that goal, but to dive into that by just asking them. So if I was to ask you, you came in and said, I want to lose 10 kgs. I want to put on some muscle mass and tone up. And I'd be like, well, what would make that goal? If you to do that goal, what would it make it possible for you to do?
Yeah.
And then you may say, I'll feel better about myself. And then I said, well, if you feel better about yourself, what would that make you able to do or possible to do? To have a better relationship with my kids because I feel better about myself. And if you've got a better relationships with your kids, what would that make it possible to do? To be a better mother or father and to give them something that I didn't have. And then we've gone from losing 10 kgs to actually really deep into what our goal is. And their goal is to be a better mother or father.
Yeah.
That's a lot more intrinsic goal. That's got a lot more to do about who they are, that sense of belonging, to that relatedness related to who they are and who they want to be.
Yeah.
And we've just nailed it off by just the simple questions like that.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's the point of understanding this type of stuff, right? Like, because you can go through, and every single trainer does it, trying to learn more about nutrition and training so you can give your clients better training plans, better training splits, better combinations of sleep, training, nutrition combinations so they can get better results. But if you go back to the beginning there and just go, but if their goal is more important to them and it actually has like a deeper meaning, then they're more likely just to stick with whatever you give them.
Totally agree, because it's for them. Hold on, let's get my dog out. Hey. Yeah. Totally, because if we think about the goals and who they are, now it's their goal. It's to do with their purpose and meaning. So, and like we spoke about last time, it's something greater than themselves. They want to be a better parent or a better husband or wife or family member.
Yeah.
And then, so like you said, it doesn't actually matter what you give them now. They're all in.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's just like, whatever your skills and ability there to like give them those tools, that's great. But it's so much less important than like what we're talking about right now. And I guess that's the main thing with like somebody's coming into the gym or getting hold of a trainer or whatever for a purpose. And if we're missing that opportunity to like touch that purpose, we're missing the biggest opportunity, because the purpose is real right now. Once I've walked in that door, like either last night or whatever the day is, it's not like it's least likely that they've been at the gym for 5 years and they're feeling that real pain right now. That moment they walk in the door or contact you is the biggest opportunity, really.
Yeah, because, and as you know, they're probably something's happened in their life, or they've got to a point when they've said, I need to make a change. So they've had all these behaviors, the icebergs, all these behaviors, and their performance is sitting at the top of their life, and they've gone, okay, I need to make a change. So they're walking into you open, saying, help me. But to them, they're seeing it as I need to lose weight or I need to tone up. But like we've just said, it's a chance to open up and actually get really deep. Why are you stepping in the door now? Like, what's happening in your life? And how can I help you?
For the people who are watching this video anyway, we've got some worksheets and stuff that we'll go through here as well to sort of like show you how to figure out how to get the sort of depth inside someone's goals. Cool. If you want those, you can just let us know. We'll send those through. I think, I guess one question that I would have, Jed, would be, once you've established that, how often do you think that would have to be reflected on and addressed? Like if you go, let's just say I wanted to be lose that 10 kgs to be a better father, all this sort of stuff, and I open it up, like motivation still dwindles over time, right? No matter like whatever. Do you reckon or what would you recommend would be a time or how often someone would have to reflect on those goals?
Well, that's a golden question. I think that comes down to actually your ability to see if they're nailing their goals, because if we think about well-being, as if they're still on that journey, depending what their goal is, that could be something that takes 6 weeks, or it could be something that takes them 5 years. It depends. It all depends where you see that the depth of the goal, I believe. But what we all see and what I've seen is, if someone's coming in with the real fine out goal of losing 10 kgs, are they predominantly going to be here in 5 years still working on becoming better?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Because there's no depth to that goal. There's no use of saying how I'm growing. So it's a hard question to answer to me, because it really depends what they're in for. If they're purely there to grow and become better, and some of the byproducts are losing weight and toning up, then it's just a constant revolving what's next in that journey. We've made that little step now. What's the next rung up that ladder?
Yeah, for sure. I think that was a good question I asked that ended up being a shit question by the time we actually dissected it, because you're right. Like, and I guess if we talked about being a good father, if just use that as an example from the 10 kgs,
yeah,
at the point that you think you're already good at it, you're already tapped out about how good you can be, right? Like, you're closed off all of a sudden, so therefore you can't expand and grow. So I think like you nailed that there. I'll see if I can just, because I'll get you to just break this down a bit. So I guess the first thing would be, can you just give us a wee overview of what this even is?
Yeah, so what the self-determination theory is it's basically a snapshot on how people are driven or determined when they set goals. And there's three kind of key areas that we speak about when we go to set a goal, or the self-determination theory looks at. So the first one is kind of it's called relatedness. So, or how you relate to people, or connection. So we are all humans that need connection, right? So if we think of people that go to the gym or stick it out at if we talk about CrossFit, it's the community. They're actually there for their goals, but they're there for the connection. They love being in that group, in that community, like-minded people trying to become better. And they're relating to people that are on that journey. So if we think about that in pure sense of making a goal, if their goal is just to lose 10 kg, then one of them, if they're connecting with you, that's great. They've got one connection piece on that, but it's quite light in terms of the bigger picture of who they are and who they want to be. And like we said, if it's their father and their family and how they're connecting to them within this goal, we've just taken that relatedness out a step. The second step to relatedness is, so yes, they're connected to you now in the gym, they've walked in, but who's in that community that you can connect them to that's on that same journey? So have you got other trainers, other people that you're training that are on the same journey or same like-minded, that you can connect them into that? And that that relationship piece is huge in that determination, because there's, we talk about that buddy system, having someone with you that's on the journey. When you're struggling, they lift you up.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's all that community, that connection.
Yeah.
When you really deeply connect to someone that you're training, they're going to stay with you, right? Because it's connection. That's why they're there. Their goals almost become different or irrelevant because they're just connected and they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
It's funny you say that, because I was sort of like, I use the CrossFit sort of thing.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
That's exactly what they did well, right? Like, we can talk about programming of CrossFit or some negative stuff, which people do, but they've got some really great things too, right? They just absolutely nailed that. And I think they almost changed the game for a lot of gyms to say, lift your game when it comes to community.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And you think about it, is their price point is double or triple what some gyms are.
Yeah.
So we always discuss that people always say time and money are their main barriers.
Yeah.
But actually CrossFit's actually said, well, that's not true.
Yeah.
Because we've actually developed a thing where people are willing to go up their time and money for triple or double the cost of a gym because of the sense of community and relating to people.
Yeah.
And that, in terms of positive psychology, relationships is number one for well-being.
Yeah.
That is what the better people's relationships are, is the biggest predictor in how people thrive in their life.
Yeah.
So we come in and they have a goal which isn't really relating to other people. They're not part of a sense of community. We've almost missed the beat there already.
Yeah.
Or we can really bring them into that community. And if you think about it, with people you train, that maybe, if we talk about people that do the coast to coast, you have one doing that, and then you go, well, actually, I've got another mate that's doing that, and then let's go train together. Yeah. And now we've brought like-minded people, and then they bring someone else in, and we've gone from one person training together to now 5 of them that are doing a session next Saturday morning.
And I mean, that's a true example. Obviously, you're using that as a real example, but like
Yeah,
the key why that's actually worked for me in the past is because people see that, and now they try to come into that environment. Do you know what I mean?
totally.
And sometimes they dip their toe in and go, they want to contribute in some way, and then all of a sudden they want to train in some way, and then all of a sudden they want to do it in a group, and now that they're just doing it, right?
Yeah, and so they've gone from coming in going, oh, I have this kind of goal or thing,
Yeah,
but now the bigger picture is I'm part of it. These guys, these environment that's great, people that are positive, that are trying to get better.
yeah,
And then what's their limit? They've gone from, oh, I might have a crack at coast to coast
yeah,
or whatever that is to now what's the next step? We've nailed that off as a group. And if
yeah,
we think about that goal, like you talked about before, about when do we reevaluate?
yeah,
Well, that almost takes care of itself by the group and what's everyone around them, and
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
nail that off and they bring everyone up. Like it's
yeah.
so even though we're talking about relatedness and that kind of relationship, we've actually grown more into environment and what that looks like.
Yeah. So that creates like a decentralized setup where the trainer no longer has to be controlling everything, right? Because you're going to go, you've got these other two people who are doing the coast to coast who are encouraging these other people. These people come on board. So it's not now you're not having to do everything. So therefore
No,
you can manage and handle more people because the people are handling the people, right?
that is the perfect, yeah. But you'll almost become the facilitator.
Yeah.
You're the person that knows these people, and you're going, oh, that person will work together, and then you just let though it's almost like the butterfly effect, right? They just kind of, and then they start hanging out and going for dinner with each other or having a social night, and then you're the outer because you're just ending up programming and being the puppet master with them almost a little bit.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
sure.
good.
And I think that's the point there is, and like when you bring real life into training and stuff as well, because like I've always found that, one thing I noticed years ago when I first started out, like there was a few trainers that were doing really well, and what they would do, they would on Saturday nights and stuff like that, they would just invite clients and their peers and stuff and go have a few beers and just like a casual socialize setup, not like just getting on the piss being silly necessarily, but it's just that it's that casual environment where all of a sudden the trainer and the client are now connecting in a similar sort of manner, not trainer client, like there's no big gap there. And what I've seen with that is like the people who did that well grew their businesses way faster, relatable, and other people were bringing their people in.
And the funny thing about that is that's actually got nothing to do, like we said, about sales or programming, or it's actually the soft skills about just bringing people together
Yeah.
and letting them connect.
Yeah, and I think that's the missing link. Then I think that's what we've talked about, like bringing more of this sort of stuff into like what we do with our coaching with trainers, is in teaching them sales and marketing and all this sort of stuff is incredibly important. But it's like retention and growth when you've got these softer skills. It's just easy because you're coming from the right place, you know what you're doing, and then when people are coming on board, they just bring people into you if you've got those softer skills. And I think
Totally agree. Yeah, and it's just people, if you're being authentic in developing those relationships, then people are all for it, right? Like if you're doing it because you're just thinking about, I need to make more money, I'm going to bring them together, people will see through that.
Yeah, eventually at least, because it's short term versus long term, and you see that with trainers on the gym floor. You'll see a trainer that you might think is a bit of a weirdo, right? Because they're different than you. So just without getting into that too much, but they're different than you, so they're weird, say. But then the people that are like them will be attracted to them and go to them, and you're the weirdo because it's just the mirror, right?
Yeah.
They're just different, but. That's exactly how they work. They're being genuine how they are, and if you're being genuine how you are, the people who relate with you will go to you, and the people who relate with them will go to them. There's no point trying to be that other person because
and that's their lens, right? That's the lens they see it through, and they see you same. So they want to be part of that.
Yeah,
and you can see with when you're in a positive environment, what that does for people, because what we're trying to give people here is, if we go on the next step about autonomy, is with one of the self-determination theories around them having the ability to kind of own their own goal. So they have autonomy over their own goal. If they're coming in or you're deciding their goal for them, and it's quite external, it's not related to anyone. Oh, yep, you want to lose 10 kg. I reckon we could put on 6 kgs of muscle for you. And that's still great. I get what you're trying to do something positive for them. They don't have much ownership around that being their goal because you're giving that to them. But if you're creating that environment around them and then, you know, they're talking about what's next, what's the next story, they're owning their own goals and they're taking control of it. And then you're just helping with your skill set to help them get closer to that goal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like the first example you used is still better than nothing, right? Where we're still helping them, but we're trying to be better, right? Like, as a trainer, how do you go another step further? How do you actually really to get them to take responsibility of their goals too, and then you be the person who's like the teacher?
Yeah, and then so now you've got them relating to people, they've got autonomy over their goal.
Yeah.
You've just nailed two of that kind of determination theory around why they're here. Oh, this is my goal. This is for me to be a better dad or a better whatever they want, or be a better thriving at workplace, or to feel better about myself internally. Yeah. They're taking ownership of that.
Yeah.
So you ask them to do something, of course they're going to.
Essentially, for those who don't know, Jed's a former pro athlete, still a pro athlete in my eyes. If you think of that like from a pro athlete point of view and an athlete point of view, the same rules apply though, I guess, because we're talking about, you know, we're a little bit older and we have kids and stuff. So the dad one comes to example.
Yeah.
We reflect back to our younger days and think of athletes essentially.
Yeah, and the kids so I'm doing a lot of work in that space with aspiring athletes now, and so when we sit down and say, you know, where you're at, where do you want to go? They'll immediately go, oh, I need to work on my skill set, or I need to work on this. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But then I say, well, who are you doing it for? Like, who's, and they'll go, oh, my culture. I want to do it for my parents who moved from Samoa. Yeah. And what are your values? You know, like who do you want to be on this journey? If we were to write if at the end of this journey, you were to be in the paper and they were going to write a little article around why about you when you retired, what would you want them to say? It's never saying I've got the greatest skill set or I can pass the ball left and right. It's that I was hard worker. I did it for my family. Yeah. That I lived by the kind of areas of my culture and who I was, and that I believed, and I kind of took them on that journey, and I was off those shoulders. Like, now we've got who you are. Now we've got your goals. So let's go do it. You're doing it for them. Yeah. So obviously we were using the short one about faith, but that now we've gone from them wanting to work on their skill set, to actually wanting to give back to their parents who brought them over from the islands, and to live by the values of who we were, and to show that in my journey. Now we've got bigger than themselves. Now it's okay. I can help you now. Like, let's go do that for your parents. Yeah, it's something that's going to get you up and doing the things you need to be doing each morning, right? Yeah. So now, I've got to get up and I've got to work on my skill set. But if I'm sitting there and it's raining outside at 6 o'clock and I'm thinking about, I need to get out and do my skill set. I'm thinking about my parents journaling over from the islands. I know what's going to get me up. And I use the kind of analogy of, if we're in a boat or in the waka, and you think about the rudder's who we are, our values, where we want to go. So if we've got no rudder, then those oars, where are they going? Like, we might have all these little oars that we need to push us on our way, but if there's no rudder for you and no kind of shooting to where we're going, it's kind of frivolous, right? So it's trying to take those, like I said, that deeper value of why they're here, giving them that, help them get that rudder, and then you pushing them on that, and you kind of using the oars for that journey for them. Yeah, perfect. I think that's as a coach and a trainer, again, that's a good way for them to be thinking about it as well, as in like, what is their role in the situation with their clients as well, and like what's their bigger picture as well. Then, on the other hand of that is then now we have the ability to, if you're asking a lot of a client, say for example, if you're asking a lot of a client, but you're true to yourself, it's not hard. And that's what I try to bring up with sales and stuff like that as well. Is in like, if you're true to yourself, sales and that doesn't come across like awkward and hard, because it's like deep down, you know what happens if they don't sign up with you, if they don't get your help and they don't get your support. You know what I mean? They get sicker, they get worse, they get fatter, or whatever it is. So it's the service that you're doing. So like, why are you sitting here with this person as well? And it's like that same sort of thing, right? Yeah, it's so true, because you can sit there and have an external going, I need to get this amount of clients, I need to make this amount of money. Which, yes, those are some of the outcomes that you may need to be able to do it.
Yeah.
but you're here because you're genuinely trying to help that person become a better version of themselves.
Yeah.
And the great thing about being in this environment is they've walked through that door to you open to become better versions of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
it's not a cold call.
No, and that's the thing is, like, if you haven't worked on your skill set to be able to help that person in that moment, you're doing them a massive disservice and yourself because you haven't put that time in. That's they're getting up in the morning and doing the skills, right? The same thing, but applied to business. You mentioned autonomy, so I'll go down to this one here, and we'll just go. Excuse the spelling.
Yeah, so relatedness, obviously, with that, we talked about that kind of connection, something bigger than themselves with others connected into that, that relationship piece. The autonomy, obviously, them having control of what their goal or aspirations or values, where they're going.
Yeah.
If it's all ours, they don't get to take control of that.
Yeah.
So how are they going to buy into being driven if it's your goal?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we mentioned earlier before we started recording this here, though, like I was talking about this piece here.
Yeah.
Because my interpretation, I guess, without talking with you about it, was like, I guess perfectionism, right? So I'm trying to go like 100% here, 100% here, 100% here, and have all three of these aligned. But you were mentioning like when you do the worksheets and stuff, often it's a bit skewed, and you're not just like kicking ass on all of them. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, because it's like a continuum scale, right? There's no, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. So I may have a goal, like we said, about losing 10 kg. So in terms of relating to others, that's quite low on the scale, right? It's just for me, by myself. There's no real connection to something bigger than myself.
Yeah, yeah.
But then there may be a goal that I want to be a father that's down the other end, but there's a whole lot in the middle.
Yeah.
But again, if we come back to self-awareness, if you've got awareness around where that goal's sitting, and they do, and then you can manipulate it to get it further down towards being more related, having more autonomy, and we'll talk about competence in a minute, then they're much more likely to stay driven on that goal or stay determined because you push them closer to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
But you may only nail 2 of those, but 2's better than having no awareness of it and walking in saying, let's lose 10 kg. And then after 3 weeks, wondering why they're not turning up.
Yeah.
But you're right. The perfect nail is if you can get them all in that right sweet spot.
Yeah.
And the glory of doing it more and more is you start figuring out which ones are right in the sweet spot. Autonomy is a really interesting one. They need to have control of it, but they're going to need help along the way as well.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of comes in with, because that's not their skill set. They've come to you to say, help me, I need help towards this goal. You're helping define those goals, but then you're in the walker on the boat with them.
Yeah.
You're on the boat with them.
Yeah.
So they're going to need you at different times, more or less, to get that journey, to stay on that journey. And that's what a good coach does. And if we think about competence, so depending on their vary of training before they come in, their skill set within that's going to be higher or lower, right? So they're going to be coming in potentially saying they want a goal that's quite hard in terms of their skill set. So if they've never lifted before and then you ask them to do Olympic lifting, that's quite a bridge to get to for them. So if they can't see that they have the ability to learn that, and that's a whole nother step in terms of growth mindset, then it's hard for them to feel confident in it. So they have to have some small wins along the way with that competence. So they've got to feel like that they're kind of mastering their environment. And if you look at back to subjective well-being again, one of them is that they feel like they can grow and master in something in their environment.
Yeah.
So if you're coming in and they're coming, I want to lose 10 kg, and you're like, right, we're going to do some Olympic lifting day one. Or they're probably going to step back because they're not going to feel that they can do that. That's way out of their range. Yeah. So you're trying to obviously grow them and make them better, but you've got to do that in a way that they feel confident along the way. And if they're getting more sufficient at movement patterns and squat patterns, then that's a spot. That's a goal ticked off along the journey, right? You've just gone, actually, I want to stay because I'm learning this as well.
Yeah. And so, I think that's something that does happen, right? Like you trainers, even if you got nowhere near the goal, or let's just say that the goal setting was shit in the first place, but they got nowhere near the goal, but they can easily see heaps of other stuff that they've achieved throughout in a positive way over whatever period of time you've been with them, it's amazing how happy they are with the results.
Yeah, because accomplishment.
Yeah.
So goal setting and accomplishment, there's like the big five and thriving in the world, and accomplishment is one of them.
Yeah.
So out of all of those, that's probably the one we do the best as PTs, because we figure out their level and then we just kind of chip them along as trainers or coaches. We go, okay, they don't know that skill set, I need to teach them that.
Yeah.
And then we practice that, and then they nail that and go, okay, this is the next one.
Yeah.
So we generally do that well. So if they come in, for example, in sports, or if I come in and someone says to me, they say, I want to do climbing. I say, okay, we're going to go do Kilimanjaro or one of the big ones tomorrow. They're going to go, whoa, I'm out. Like you've just taken me way outside my mastery. This is too far above me. Yeah. So I've just lost the determination in terms of confidence. They're not even going to go there. Yeah. But if I say, we're just going to go do a small climb up the hill and see how you go. Yeah. Yep, I'm in. So it's adjusting those realms to where they hit, where they are getting pushed, but it's close enough that they can get a win, because they've just nailed something, and then they're going to feel good about themselves, right? Yeah. So then they're going to come back because you've just nailed something off that list. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like, I don't know if this is just the era we live in or whatever, but we've got like, I coach in the exact same things in a slightly different way. I'll explain that. Like, exactly what you said is exactly the process that trainers and coaches have to do. Let's just say they haven't actually trained clients and they want to move their business online. And then they explain what their business looks like. And it's honestly no different than if somebody who's never done activity ever, they're 27 and they want to make the All Blacks, right? It's almost to that extent when they don't realize the milestones that would have to be reached to reach some goals. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like where we are at the moment with online trainers or offline trainers, whatever, is the short-sightedness of what's needed for success is so small, and it's almost to what like health and fitness would have been 5-10 years ago, when people wanted like six-pack abs in 12 minutes sort of thing, like all that sort of stuff picking up from a marketing point of view. And now people aren't prepared to, what you mentioned before, is ride that journey, learn the skills, and go through the process with their business either anymore. But they'll be frustrated that their clients have that expectations.
Yeah, we want, so we want everything now. We need it now. What can I get? What pill can I take? What ab thing can I do that does it in a minute? Yeah. But if we think about, and I go back to growth and who we want to be, is like whatever goals they come into, is our goal is to make them lifelong exercises, or people that want to feel good about themselves, right? Yeah. That's actually my goal. If I'm seeing anyone, is to make them feel good for lifelong and give them some strategies to do that. And exercise is one of the best strategies for that. We know that. Yeah. So even though they may be coming in with goals, my goal should be, how do I see them? How do I give them the skills and attributes to be here forever? Yeah. To know that actually the journey of life is about doing this stuff, learning new goals, mastering them, aspiring to go towards something better than myself, growing, learning, being a better version of myself. They're all fairy words, but that's why I do it. That's why I want to get up at 5 a.m. and train someone and wants to hit some pads on the boxing. Not because I like just doing that, but this is cool. This is the gritty life stuff. This is the meaning and purpose. Yeah. So yeah. Interesting, eh? It makes you
yeah. But I think that's the point, and that's why we're having this conversation. It's just because like I said, my purpose and the reason I do what I do is because I want to see trainers that are passionate about what they do to be able to stay in the industry. And often it's not learning more about lifting and nutrition. It's they just don't have enough clients. So it's almost like, so what do we do to help them with that part of it? But the caveat to that is like, okay, now we're helping them with that, but the retention's not as good as it could be because they don't. Now they've also missed those other skills that I would have neglected, say 5 years ago, and said, they know too much already. They just need to know more of the business side of things. So we create these tools for them to have to use, but then they actually can't deliver results. So we go, okay, well now we have to start adding this part of it too, because more of it.
Yeah, and you're basically, and in terms of athletes and what I do, you're just developing a development plan or a path to mastery plan for them. Yeah, working out their strengths and weaknesses and keep working down that plan to continually grow, right?
Yeah, because and it can never stop, right? Because there's it can always be better.
Yeah.
And I guess like from my client perspective, it's like if every single one of my clients could reach their goal in a week, you know what I mean, like, or a day, then you've nailed it. But you're always trying to make it faster, smoother, better. Like if it takes 6 months, 12 months, you're trying to refine it. Okay, well now what's missing? Okay, how can they be better? And then we have to become better to make them better, right?
Yeah, and if they're doing that well, then they're actually getting more people being able to exercise to feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win for everybody, right? Like there's no downside to being better at what you're doing. You're getting more people connected in that want to have goals and dreams and aspirations to feel better about themselves, to have autonomy about who they are, and develop skills and have more confidence.
Yeah.
Then you go, and then when we go and give them a well-being score, now you've just pushed them up 10 points or whatever the scale you use, but they might have not hit their goal, their official goal.
Yeah.
Actually, you're nailing it.
Yeah.
They're going to stay with you.
Official goal.
Yeah.
With these three here, so like, is there anything that we want to run over? Because we can wrap this up in a sec because this has been solid. Of these that you want to go into any more detail, or do you think that's sort of like?
Oh, I mean, like I think depending who that person is, they will have a more affiliational connection. I don't think we're all even in all of those. I think we need all of them. But each personality has a different, what number we are in the family, if we're a single, what our personality is, what's happened in our upbringing. All those behaviors, all those things that happen below the iceberg affect our behavior and our performance, right? So if they're, for instance, me, I'm the youngest of 5, have always had people around me. I'm an extrovert. I love the connection. Like that is my number one well-being thing for me. So relatedness out of this has to be like, that is the number one out of those 3 for me. So whatever I'm doing, and sometimes I'll even do a goal that I don't want to do just because I'm with other people.
For sure. And that's exactly, it's funny because you and I, the people who don't know us, would be the exact opposite, because that's 100% not me. But in a call like this, you would never be able to identify that. But it's relatedness to me is almost nothing, and like it's something I have to work really hard to do. Especially, I owned a gym and had trainers and all that. So community for me isn't something that's real big, but it's something I've had to work a lot on because I know the importance of it.
And then it's obviously how when you meet with people is, how are you, finding out more about them, their deeper, you've got brothers and sisters, what was your upbringing like? And you're doing that because you're actually finding out who they are. And you'll see what kind of, and that's the soft skills about when they smile, when they talk about what was the best, what's your best day in your life? What's the best thing that's ever happened to you? Starting to find out who they are. But then like for you, for instance, then if you're more of an introvert, then you may be more on the competence side. You just love learning new skills. So actually that's the most important thing here for your one is we do need to still relate you, but actually what's the competence level? We're going to teach you these new skills. And you're like, awesome, I'm going to learn how to grow in these areas. And then you've just kind of sent the fire or the belly and the what one that means something to them. So it's not easy, right? It's not easy being a coach for this stuff because it's not just saying, I've got to tick that box and tick that box and tick that box. It's really getting to know someone. But what would be the problem with after 6 weeks sitting back down like we talked about and doing the goals again and going, actually, I've just learned some more about you. In your head and going, let's sit down and do this again.
I think that's a really good point. I think as coaches and trainers, they probably should do that even every 3 to 6 months. The other side of that is like a skill of mine, obviously, is like I can read people pretty quickly. Pretty fast. I don't know if that's a skill just by doing what I've done for so many years, but it's like same with goals and stuff like that. I can probably pretty quickly identify what their goals and purposes pretty fast by myself. But again, it doesn't mean that's the right thing to do, right? For me to know it and then share it with them, it's almost like how do I coach them for them to tell me what it is and reverse.
Totally. And it shows you good because you know them and you can see what they're here for. But totally, it's if we think about autonomy, if you've given them their goal, even though they might have had the same one, but you've actually given it to them, you've lost the chance for them to really own it. It's funny you say that because of the awareness and stuff like that, I'm aware that I do that, so I can like control that in a coaching environment. But you put me in a, like say with Abby, my wife, can't be done. Isn't like have to fix the problem immediately. It's not like Yeah, and that's a whole nother step if we think about behaviors, what role we take on in our family. Like we all take on that certain, we have this idea of who we are because of that. And they'll all come in, and we know everyone that comes to us is coming in there with an idea about who they are, positive or negative. And some of that's true and some of that's just what they've made up in their head, because that's what we do, right? We have this negative bias.
Yeah.
So the more we can see, they can see the vision of where they're going positively, what the positive outcomes of this is. So it's a positive effect goal, something I'm going to make a difference in my life, my family, my work, my relationships, because I feel better about myself. Then we've just done a positive effect goal, right? We've just given one, and we talked about that before, about how if people have negative goals, if you come in and say you need to work out, this happens lots, you've just had a cardiac arrest, and you say if you don't work out you're going to die, it's something crazy. I can't remember the percentage, or something like only 11% of people will follow through if you tell them that their goal is that they have to do this because they might die.
Well, it's that mechanism in the brain, as in like we're so conscious and aware we're going to die, full stop. Like it's because it's an inevitable thing. It's really hard to override that and make it fearful, or otherwise we'd be running around all the time freaking out because we're one day closer to the hole. It's like,
and that's the problem, is they're probably coming in thinking quite negatively about themselves. You know, I'm overweight, I'm fat, I don't like the way I look. And they may tell you their goal is just to lose 10 kg, but that's not what they're saying in their head. So we've got to try and show them the path, but also that there's this great light here that they can be better. Like, and then so they're like, I'm on the journey, let's go. Like, and then they, you know, they're having those little goals that they're nailing along the ways, there's little mastery, that competence as they go. They're feeling like they own it. They're connecting with others. Why wouldn't they stay? They'll find more money to come back. Like because you've unlocked the key for them, right?
And they can't live without it, essentially, eh?
No, it becomes value to them.
And going backwards is now the freakiest thing you can possibly imagine for those people. And I think the only way it does actually unfold is when the environment changes to some degree, right? Like, so the old habits can kind of creep back and that unfolds. I know that we should catch up and do an environment conversation at some point. I know if we touch on that, we're going to go pretty deep. But if you want the worksheets to sort of go through the questionnaires and stuff, how to actually do that, let us know, and I'll send those through as well. But I'll stop this recording now, Jed. But that was fantastic, ma'am.